right now on It's Your Call.
I'm the king of the world. Hold it. Hold it. You're not that pretty. I'm a bad man.
Muhammad Ali boasted that he was king of the world because he could float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. But others think Michael Jordan is the greatest athlete of all time because he could quite simply fly. But when it comes to one of a kind, can any athlete be better than Tiger? Well, some say this kid is better than them all with 8 Olympic gold medals. Is Michael Phelps the best athlete of all time? It's your call. Next.
CN8's Emmy Award-winning It's Your Call with Lynn Doyle starts now.
There is usually one name associated with the Olympics every 4 years, and there is no doubt that this year's memory maker is Michael Phelps. Not since Mark Spitz in 1972 has someone made an impact in the pool, on the Olympics, and in fact on the world since this 23-year-old. But do 8 gold medals in one Olympics make him the best athlete of all time? Or are there others who could challenge him for that title? That's our discussion for the next hour, and we want you to weigh in. So start calling or emailing us right now. Hi there, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lynn Doyle, sending out my personal congratulations to a fellow Baltimorean, Michael Phelps. You know he has now cemented his place in Olympic and, in fact, athletic history, and he has certainly made Charm City proud, that's for sure. So I particularly invite our Baltimore viewers to call in and tell us what you think this hour. For the rest of you, though, here's our debate. Some people think this amazing feat in Beijing earns Michael the title of best athlete ever. But others disagree and say, while it's incredible, it's not like Tiger Woods winning 14 major championships, or Roger Federer's 12 Grand Slam titles, or even Michael Jordan leading Chicago to 6 championships. Some even say Mark Spitz had it tougher back in '72 because he didn't have the technology to help him along. We want to know what you think about all of this. Where do Michael's accomplishments stack up, in your opinion? If you want to join in, go ahead and give us a call. You can also email us or take our web poll. They're both at cn8.tv. Find us on Facebook and MySpace as well. And if you want to blog about it, go to our webpage at cn8.tv and get the action started. We're going to hear from you in just a minute, but first, right off the top, we're going to go to Michael Phelps' hometown and mine of Baltimore, Maryland, and check in with Anita Marks. She is the host of the Anita Marks Show on Baltimore's ESPN Radio. That's 1300 on your AM dial, and she is our featured caller. Hey, Anita, how are you?
Hi, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you. I bet Charm City is all abuzz with this Michael Phelps action.
It has just been overwhelming, and if you know anything about Baltimore or Baltimoreans, they're all about their own, and really, you talk about Michael Phelps, who has put Baltimore back on the map, not just nationally, but internationally, and so yes, Baltimore is embracing him. They're planning a parade. He just bought a new home in Federal Hill, and the city cannot wait for Michael Phelps to come back home to Baltimore so they can celebrate his 8 gold medals and his 7 world records.
You know, it's great to see the fans at the Ravens Stadium in Baltimore staying after the preseason game last week to watch him go for that gold medal number 8. The fans were just absolutely ecstatic as they were watching that. Can you describe perhaps what the atmosphere was like for us?
It was tremendous. It really was. And, you know, it's interesting. Beyond Michael Phelps, really, when you look at when you're watching, of course, him win the world records and whatnot, you know, the video cameras and everything, they're showing his mom. So it's been really interesting. Believe it or not, as much as Baltimore wants to embrace Michael Phelps, I think Michael Phelps' mom has become like America's mom. So not only is this city excited for Michael Phelps to come back, but they're excited for his mom to come back as well. She has become a star herself, and of course, you know, all the success that he's had.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to give the moms and the dads out there who are watching an opportunity to weigh in here because our discussion is about Michael Phelps and his great 8 medals at this year's Beijing Olympics. We want to know if you think he is the greatest athlete of all time. It has actually sparked some debate, I'm sure, on Anita's show, and it certainly will spark one here as well. Anita, stay with us for just a second. I want to introduce the rest of our panel as we wait for people to give us a call here about the legend of Michael Phelps. Joining us from Boston Boston is Jeff Rickard. He is the host of CNA's Out of Bounds Late Night. Glad to have him with us. Here in the studio is Maddie Crippen, who is a former U.S. Olympian. She is currently on the Athletic Advisory Committee to the United States Olympic Committee. Her two sisters and brother recently competed at the 2008 swimming trials in Omaha, and she actually swam with Michael Phelps back in 2000. I want to start with you there before I introduce everybody else, because the idea that you were in the pool with him, swam with him, you have one-on-one knowledge. What's this guy like? Is he really part dolphin, as they say?
I think to know Michael is to know any normal 22, 23-year-old guy in Baltimore or in Philadelphia. And that's what makes him so endearing to the public in the United States, is because he is that laid-back kind of goofy kid that you see. He is that guy. And yet when he is underwater, he takes on a whole new dimension. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Certainly not in your lifetime. No. And it's like any other great athlete, I think, when they're, or anyone who's great, not necessarily in athletics, but in their field, when they're doing that, they're at a higher level. So Michael definitely personifies that.
Well, he is at a high level, and the question is he at the highest level? Can he be considered the greatest athlete of all times? Or can you name some other folks who might hold that distinction? If you want to tell us what you think, the telephone lines are open. I'm going to introduce the rest of the panel here. Jim Ellis is a coach for the Philadelphia Department of Recreation. His life was recently portrayed in the movie Pride, starring Terrence Howard and the late Bernie Mac. He's been coaching for 30 years. He's produced hundreds of college swimmers. He's going to tell us what he thinks about the new kid on the block. Peter Zappolo is an exercise physiologist and an elite trainer at the Sporting Club at the Bellevue in Philadelphia. He trained the current 2008 Olympian Tracy Cameron. And rounding out our panel is Dr. Corey Bank, who is the founder of the Abington Center for Therapy and Sports Psychology. He is also a professor of psychology at Montgomery County Community College, and he has completed over 100 triathlons, including Ironman USA. Whew, what a great resume of people that we have on the show today. So I'm going to toss it out there. Jeff, do you think that Michael Phelps deserves the acknowledgement that he is perhaps the greatest athlete of all time?
Would you settle for maybe having the greatest week an athlete has ever had of all time?
Well, there's no doubt about that. No argument there.
Yeah, I don't think there's much argument about that. It's been the greatest, if not certainly one of the greatest weeks ever that an athlete has had. I have problems naming any athlete who hasn't even retired yet. He hasn't even written his entire story yet. You know, come 2012, we may be talking about another 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 gold medals, and then maybe we really start to elevate him to the top 2, 3, 4 athletes of all time. A lot like Tom Brady is a quarterback for the Patriots right now. I would say it's heading the right way. It's tracking, but let's hold off on putting him into that elite class until the story's actually completely written. But certainly this has been one of the greatest 7 days that I am aware of in sports history, and I've been thinking about it and looking through it, and we had a whole discussion about this on ESPN Radio Saturday night. None of us can think of anybody who had a greater week athletically than what Michael Phelps has had. It really is astounding.
It certainly is astounding. Let's get some reaction here in the studio. Who wants it? I mean, it's agreed upon us all that it was a great week, but certainly in a lifetime to win the number of medals that he did and to do it in such convincing fashion has to put him up there.
I think you could look at the Tour de France, and if we had this conversation in 2005, we can talk about Lance Armstrong, 7 years in a row, training all year long, year after year, plus what he had to come back from, and so it's sort of a different thing because he's doing that event for 23, 24 days, and he's done that for every year and winning for 7 years. So greatest month versus greatest week, and again, Lance is now retired, and we can sort of cement it. Michael Phelps, again, he's young. He could have, you know, another 7, 8 medals in 4 years, and based on what we're seeing with other female swimmers in their 40s medaling, he could, you know, still be doing this until the year 2025.
I also think it's a unique opportunity to be able to do this many events, you know, in a week. You know, the athlete that I was working with is training for 4 years for one event, you know, with a preliminary, a semi, and a final. So, you know, one medal event. So, you know, how do you equate that? You know, do you say, I mean, that's one thing that really impresses me with Michael is, you know, how does he do a